The Charlotte Hornets, everyone thinks that or knows that they need a big. I think the names that are going to pop up, and I would agree with them, are Myles Turner or Richaun Holmes. My issue with them,
How many times have we mentioned those two names with this team already?
I don't know that Holmes would be so fun to watch within the offense, and he's a better rim protector than people think. I don't think he gives you enough of the interior defense. Myles Turner certainly does. Is this team good enough to go all in on a trade? Because okay, so what I came up with was difficult. Is I don't know who you're. It's easier to get Holmes if you're just sweetening it with if you're willing to give up a book night, which maybe you're not because Holmes is a big, but you can do picks, Plumlee, and another salary, and I don't even know if that's enough to get him as a baseline. So you don't have to give up like a Terry Rozier, and you can't even give up a Terry Rozier right now. You don't have to give up a Gordon Hayward. You don't have to give up a PJ Washington. With a Myles Turner, you do. You're gonna have to give up Washington, and you can't step ladder your way middle of the season and do a 4-for-1. So I just don't know what the deal is to get Turner's money back in. I guess you go Oubre, Washington,
and picks.
Does that? I guess are you willing to give up that much for Myles Turner?
I think it makes sense for this team.
It just locks you in to this core.
It does. But I think that there's already reason to believe that that's worth doing. LaMelo Ball during his rookie season was super fun, was impactful, was largely good. I don't think we knew if it was the product of there just not being a big time scouting report on him as a guy who was not playing in one of the premier leagues in the world or in the NCAA. And he was able to parlay that into so much success, or if he was a legitimate foundational block. I don't think that question exists anymore. He is the guy in Charlotte who is going to be able to elevate this team for the better part of a decade. And there are already good fitting pieces around him in Miles Bridges and Terry Rozier. And then on some nights, guys like Gordon Hayward. If you put that rim protecting defensive player of the year chasing, occasionally floor stretching big in Myles Turner next to LaMelo Ball with the rest of this roster around him, I think Charlotte makes some noise in the playoffs this year.
I get it. It just seems like an unnecessary risk at this point. And it's funny.
Isn't that the kind of risk that a team in this market that isn't going to have the free agency appeal needs to make when that kind of opportunity presents itself? Because Turner is the kind of player you draw up to fill in the cracks of this team.
Fill in the cracks, but does it elevate you to a conference finalist? Because that has to be the aim if you're making an all-in trade right now.
Given the youth, maybe not this year, but it certainly is reasonable within the near future.
And that's why I would just bide my time if I were them. And to that point, I'll call them stopgap suggestions. Mo Bamba, I think he's been good this year in Orlando. How much does it cost to get him? The one, and this is probably a hot take at the moment. I think the Knicks need to become quasi sellers. This is not the roster. I think it's clear. We'll have to do a deeper dive on that.
A dirty little secret there is that you've been saying that since like game 2 of this season.
No, I was definitely aboard the Knicks train when they were like 6-1 or whatever it is. Been all downhill basically since that win over the Bulls. Nerlens Noel would be interesting here.
Nerlens would be a good fit.
A mid-range salary, and he can run the floor with you even though he has terrible hands, and he's going to give you some real rim protection. He can't play a ton of minutes because he will get in foul trouble, and he just never played a ton of minutes. But given that you want to play smaller, that's actually not a bad thing for you. And he's not going to cost you if the Knicks are selling, or even if the Knicks aren't, at most, like an Oubre for Nerlens Noel swap. And the Knicks might even have to send you something in that, given how Oubre has played this season. So the fact that he doesn't cost you a core guy or a core pick, I think that's intriguing for them.
I'm 100% on board with that as a lower end target, but I do think that following this Pacers report, I would love to see Charlotte strike on that.
What do you think about Christian Wood for this team?
Another really strong fit. I like the idea of guys who have bigs who can really keep up with LaMelo in transition, who can also create in the half court set and aren't total slouches on defense. I think that Turner is a better fit, but you name an athletic big, and I'm going to tell you that I like him here because that's what you want to put around LaMelo Ball.
I do just think that if you're going to make the all-in play, right now it feels Myles Turner or bust-ish, because Christian Wood just isn't going to give you enough defensively. He's going to give you way less defensively than Noel, less than Richaun Holmes. I think if there was a way to just make the mid-end move where if you want to step above Noel, what is the cost of Richaun Holmes? Maybe a Jakob Poeltl?
See, I don't think I would want to go anywhere in between. Because with Nerlens Noel, you can get away with offering nothing better than Oubre. If you go above that, then PJ Washington is probably entering the discussion. And I just don't want that to happen unless it's for a player I deem a very strong fit like Myles Turner.
Would you give a PJ Washington for Richaun Holmes for this team?
I don't think I would for this team.
If it was just Mason Plumlee and PJ Washington, you wouldn't do that.
No, I don't think. I love Richaun Holmes, as you know. I don't
not coming off like it.
I don't think he provides the defensive presence that I would need to give up PJ Washington, not because it wouldn't be a good value, but because I then don't have that asset to move for a better fit.
I think it's fair because you're also then trading two of your quote unquote centers, because we know Washington plays in dual big lineups as well, for one. And that is when it's not. It's
in a vacuum. Yes, I'm moving PJ Washington and Mason Plumlee for Richaun Holmes without blinking. But for this team, when I have to consider the other assets I need to be able to move, because all of a sudden then you're starting to talk about Miles Bridges or Terry Rozier in a trade, and I don't want to be doing that.
Yeah. So, and yeah, the Miles Bridges stuff, even with his next contract, you just don't want to give him up. The other name I thought about if he became available, and people are adamant that he's not a center, would you do the Myles Turner special? And it would cost more, but for a Pascal Siakam on this team.
It would cost more. I would be very intrigued. I just don't really see a feasible path there. I don't think Siakam is exactly what this team wants or needs, but he's so good in so many different areas that it's hard to ever turn down a player of that caliber.
I think that's totally fair. And that's why the Hornets were just interesting, because I don't think they're at the point where they should do the Turner type move.
I do, but I get why you don't think so.